What's going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rage, and I'm back with some more sync content to bring to you. Now, today's build video, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to start going into one of our legendaries, and this is going to be one that's widely considered to be possibly one of the worst that exists in this game right now, and that's actually going to be for the Vicious Cycle. Now, the reason why I wanted to do something like this, to be able to do a build video for this, is to show off, one, that this is actually a pretty decent gun if you use it in the right situations, and two, because you do get a free copy of this if you do get all the way to Elite Run 5 and you manage to complete it, that people are going to be excited. They're going to get their hands on potentially a brand new legendary, one they haven't been able to use before, and I'm here to show you how to be able to get the most out of it. So in this video, we'll be discussing everything to do with runner choice, mod choice, nano choice, in terms of like playstyle, so you know how to be able to get the most out of this gun. So if that sounds good to you and you want to be able to see more builds like this in the future, make sure to drop that like and subscribe so you can find your way back to the channel for more future content. But with all that said and done, what are we waiting for? Let's get right into the video. Alright, as always, we like to hit our tab button. We like to have a quick look through the loadout in terms of how I currently have it set up. So this, you can see pretty much right off the bat that I do have some red mods. Now, don't be put off by this whatsoever. You can still do this build absolutely fine with purples and yellow alternatives. It's just because I've managed to get far enough so that I can actually slot in those red mods, but you can still get work done without those, so just keep that in mind, but we will discuss those a little bit more in a second so you have an idea on that as well. So in terms of like the whole build, it all centers around this gun, and that's what we're going to have a look at first, and that's going to be the Vicious Cycle. If I press the F button on this, we can have the item card pop up, and it will be able to go into a little bit more detail for us. So how the Vicious Cycle works is that it is an SMG that fires piercing blades that return to the weapon when reloading or after reaching their maximum distance. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the exact idea as to what this distance is at this moment in time, unfortunately, but just know that if you fire this relatively into the air, or if it doesn't collide with like a wall or a floor or anything like that, after a certain amount of distance, it will then return straight back to the gun automatically. It doesn't refill ammunition or anything like that. It's just purely a return journey, and it will do some extra damage, and it is chunky damage on the way back, which is really, really nice to see. On top of this, it also has the extra benefit of being able to stun on its return journey. Now, keep in mind that while the item card here does say about maybe able to stun, and you've got all this extra information here, just know that the majority of this is going to be on the return journey of this blade, and that's the real kind of nuance as to how to get the most out of this build. You need to line yourself up so you can get these blades to hit as many enemies as possible when they return, because they all do piercing, they all go straight through everyone, and then it's also going to have that extra application when it comes to stun, which is perfect for the mods that we're going to have a look at in a second. Now, you'll see that I do currently have mine up to tier 5. It don't necessarily need it to be able to get to tier 5 to get the most out of this gun. Even at tier 0, I believe this is either 60 or 70%, I can't remember off the top of my head, which is a relatively realistic chance of being able to stun, especially seeing it's an SMG and it has a fast rate of fire, so you will be firing multiple blades, and multiple blades will be striking, all having those really nice chances. The only thing that you're just going to be missing out on is this extra stun damage, and also the range damage, which is quite a nice multiplier. At tier 5, you do get some shots are fired perpendicularly. This does happen at the original shot of the gun, so it will fire out at almost like a little bit of a spread. It's kind of like a mini shotgun in a sense. It's not a very high chance, it does happen, but there's just extra chance of being able to get all those blades to come back in and do extra damage and more stun as it happens. So the Vicious Cycle is a very awkward gun to be able to play around with. One, because it has very low bullet velocity. Because we're firing piercing blades instead of bullets, they do tend to travel fairly slowly, and you will actually miss some shots if you've got enemies that are strafing left and right, so you definitely need to be able to pay that attention. You also do have a change to your crosshair as well, which is very misleading, because it does have very good hip fire. You don't actually need to aim down sights with this gun, and you can just rely on that returning damage to be able to get the most out of this gun as well. But it will suggest that it is a massive wide hip fire, but it's actually nowhere near as bad as that, so you just keep that in mind, that it does the game does tend to deceive you, and you do have that to be able to contend with. So that is pretty much the gun. That's basically how it fires. That's just pretty much how it performs. So how do we get the most out of this? What choices can we make to do more with this? Well, we can do a couple right off the bat by going for our runner and our nano. So our first runner is going to be Ragnar. Now, the reason why we've gone for Ragnar is because everything in her kit is catered towards stun, and she is absolutely perfect for being up there in the fight. The reason why is because we also have this perk called Death Defier, where we recover health from being able to kill prime nanos or rival runners, but obviously the rival runners defense part isn't going to come into play in the PvE side of things, but being able to kill all those prime nanos, and we're going to find a way to do this really fast, really effectively by using some of the mods that we do have and take in with us in our loadout. It just does so much work. We're able to just consistently keep refilling our health, and that means that we can spend our radiant or being able to not have to rely as much on medkits, so we can just rely on being able to heal ourselves up. We can give our medkits over to our other teammates, they can get the most out of it, etc. like that. We have a lot of sustain when it comes to Ragnar. This gets compounded even further by using our runner skill, which is going to be Radiant Eye, which has a fairly low-ish feeling cooldown. It definitely feels like it has a better cooldown time than some of the others that exist in this game, and that means that we can actually use some cooldown skills with that, but we'll get to that very shortly. But Radiant Eye, what it doesn't say it does on the skill right now is that you do release a small AoE kind of shockwave, and any enemies that are caught within this shockwave that is around you will then get stunned if they can be. That means we're going to be stunning nanos, we're going to be stunning primes. The only things that we can't stun are going to be things like Tyrants and Goliaths, the things that genuinely cannot be stunned in the first place. So Radiant Eye is a really effective AoE, like get out of jail free card, but also when we do kill or when we do damage to those stun nanos, we're able to leech health from them, so we're also just doubling up on that extra health there right now. It's just really nice. It's a very effective skill. Now, in terms of other runners, you can get away with using them, but I wouldn't really recommend it. I feel like Ragnar's kit is catered so much towards this build, so much towards this playstyle, that it just doesn't make any sense to go into anything else. So therefore, I just wouldn't recommend any kind of changes here, as opposed to like all the other build videos that I've done where I've suggested alternatives. Now, in terms of like Nano, it's just the one choice here, and that's going to be the Crusher. The reason why is the Crusher is once again one of those that has like a massive amount of kit that is catered towards stun and is absolutely amazing at being able to do it. And not only has it got a huge HP pool, not only has it got some taunt ability, which is going to take away some of the firefight from you, it also has a massive range in terms of AoE and being able to stun enemies all at the same time. And through the use of the Codex, we can improve the chances of that being able to proc off. And it's just really useful. It's really effective. And overall, the Crusher is the one to be able to take out if you are looking to go into a stun build. So that just leaves us out with the mods and when it comes to our Codex. So the Codex is going to be a little bit more simple, so let's go start diving into the mods of choice. And the idea behind this is that we want to emphasize more on the stun, but we also want to go into our damage to be able to take out things like Tyrants, to be able to take out Goliaths, because we already have a reliable way of being able to take out like pack nanos, being able to take out primes. So we need something to help us out with the bossing aspect so that we're still doing some use to the rest of the team, or if you're going against solo, you need some kind of reliable damage output. So in terms of mod 1, what we want to do is grab stun and gun. Now, like I said, we do have red mods in here. You don't need to worry about that whatsoever. You definitely can get away of being able to use a yellow one, which is what I was doing beforehand, and you can just do that just absolutely fine. This is all that you're going to get the extra of is an additional 1 second in terms of stun time, and you're also going to get an extra 5% health threshold for you to then instantly delete them. So it's not really that big of a deal, so we're just going to go with that. So just treat this as red or yellow, and we'll discuss the same when we get to port 3. But stun and gun is the mod of choice. Now, I was originally also playing around with reload to unload because this is an SMG that is focused around reloading, so therefore I was open to get even more critical damage, and that is definitely an effective kind of playstyle. If you find out that you actually need a little bit more help when it comes to Tyrants and being able to take out bosses and Goliaths, then reload to unload is probably the best shout to go for, because that's just going to help increase the amount of damage you do across the board. But I do think that stun and gun, just in general, is going to be your best way of being able to take out those mobs, especially in those higher end kind of content. So stun and gun, what it does is one hit kills on stun nanos with low health. As with the red mod, this does go up to 40%, so once an enemy reaches 40%, if they are stunned, you can just pretty much hit them anywhere in the body and they will instantly be killed. It's really effective. It also increases the duration of stun, and the yellow one is obviously 35 and 1 second respectively, so you definitely want to go into that. In terms of attributes, if you want to roll for something, damage, critical chance, and ammo capacity is really nice. If you can get stun as well, that's also amazing. If you can get SMG damage, once again, really nice. All of those play into this build. So mod 2 is where we start to get a little bit into, because we don't have anything that's pretty good when it comes to stun, so we might as well grab something that's going to help us out damage-wise. And there's nothing really much better than the old one too. You deal additional damage with your primary weapon after you land a critical hit, and this happens for 15 seconds on a yellow, and it will give you 20% gun damage, which is going to filter into everything you do. Not only is this 20% gun damage on your standard body shots, it's also going to be 20% damage feeding into your weak points, and it's also going to be 20 point that feeds into your crits as well. And it's just really effective in terms of like damage as well. Now in terms of alternatives, there's not really much I would kind of suggest for this. Like I said, Mod 2 does feel extremely weak when it comes to most of the gun kind of builds that happens in this game. But what you can do is potentially go for something like Parting Gift. Parting Gift will actually help you out with softening up some enemies, maybe even helping you out with some AoE clear, which is kind of a little bit of a weak point that this build does have. It's especially good for being able to take down primes, it's especially good for being able to focus down tyrants and all that, but when it comes to AoE, like mass clearing, it's just kind of, it does suffer a little bit compared to something like Split Ender, so Parting Gift could potentially help you out there. You also have Explosive Ricochet, which also could potentially help you out as well, because everything is going to be bullet kind of based, so therefore everything is going to be treated as a kill shot, and therefore you can start ricocheting some explosives between nanos and just start working it down that way. Moving on next to Mod 3, and this one is especially important because, once again, like we've mentioned with the gun, you're only able to do that stun damage, that stun chance that is mentioned on the gun itself is only reliable on the blades coming back to the gun. It doesn't help you with the bullets that go out, so therefore we need to worry about something that can help us out a little bit more there just to help us with consistency. That's where we're going to go with Weak Point Stun. Weak Point Stun is absolutely amazing, and once again, because it is a red mod, I am going to show you that it does exist as a yellow, so that's what I was using beforehand, and you can see the differences right there. Weak Point Stun is really effective because not only are we aiming for the weak points to do damage, but we're also going to then be able to, on a reliable way, be able to stun those enemies with the blades going forward, and that makes them so much easier to be able to hit once those blades return when we do pop our reload. That means that we're also going to be able to chain this with our Mod 1 and being able to instantly delete enemies once they are stunned and on low health, because the idea is that you can, with your Weak Point Stun, you send out the blades, you hit them in the weak point, they get stunned, and they start losing so much of their health. Once the reload happens and the blades return back through them, they're going to individually hit them just consecutively straight after each other, and eventually once they hit that low health threshold, they will then instantly delete that enemy that's in front of you, and this is just so effective at being able to take down primes especially. Weak Point Stun is just really good in terms of being able to, like I say, if it's a build that you're aiming for weak points and everything like that, it's just really effective as a mod to be able to grab. And also on top of that, we're increasing the amount of stun damage we will be doing. That is also going to impact our blades that go out as well as when they come back in, so that is a huge damage multiplier, and that really does help us out with that mobbing side. Now lastly is Port 4, and this is where most of the build utility kind of comes in, but what I feel like this build really needs and what kind of focuses into, and it makes the most sense to double down on it, is the fact that we want more DPS. So the idea is with this one, I have gone for Skill Thrill. The idea is that we do use the skill so that we can pop off that AoE kind of shockwave that's going to stun all those enemies. We're then going to give ourselves a massive DPS phase of an extra 50% gun damage for 30 seconds, and then we're just going to be able to proc everything else off. Because we're able to do that, and we're able to go with the old one too, and because stun and gun, because we've done that AoE kind of freeze on everyone, that AoE stun, we're then going to be absolutely deleting them that way. Skill Thrill plays so much into the build that it just is kind of crazy. We have enough sustain, we have enough kind of like healing and everything like that with Ragnar built in with how we go through with our HP, that we don't really need to rely too much on being able to get something like armor transfer so that we always stay healthy that way. Now technically you could make that argument, you could actually go for, once I find it, there we go, armor transfer, because you will be reliably breaking armor left, right and center. You can actually go for that. That is actually a decent shout. So if you don't have Skill Thrill, or you feel like you need a little bit more sustain, then armor transfer is the way to go. And in terms of like anything else that we do have, you can also go for Prime Stunner. Prime Stunner is absolutely amazing in terms of a mod for this build, but the reason we don't go for that is because, like I said, we are looking to help us out when it comes to Tyrants and Goliaths, and we also want to get as fast to that weak point threshold or that low health threshold so we instantly delete those enemies right off the board. So Prime Stunner is a really good shout. It's definitely a very close second, but I do think that Skill Thrill is pretty much the way to go, and that's just purely my personal opinion. But you can definitely alternate back and forth between these two, so feel free to go which one feels best for you. And then lastly, that just leaves us to have a look at the Codex so you can see how I currently have it built up. Now keep in mind that this is going to be the same because we aren't able to reset anything on the Codex. This is just going to have been the same that's progressively got bigger as I've actually gone through all the other builds that have been on this channel. But in terms of like things that you do want to keep an eye out for, things that you do want to go straight into, you want to obviously go for health, you want to go for weak point damage, you want to go for your armor, you want to go for your armor damage. Obviously this is just pretty much standard. As you move a little bit further down, anything SMG wise is going to be great. You definitely want to grab Grease Gun. Grease Gun is really, really good because we will be doing critical damage all the time. The only reason why I haven't gone into that is because I am saving up to go into mid-range master, but obviously we'll get to that very shortly. In terms of like that, we also want to get some extra health going, we want some extra armor going, we want extra weapon critical damage, we want extra weak point damage, and we also want some extra stun damage, which we're going to get with increased vertigo, which not only helps us, but it also helps our crusher, because that's going to go into our companion side of things, and it helps with the amount of stun damage. When we get to row 6 though, obviously mid-range master is the way to go, and that's going to be the one that kind of helps us out. That's going to be huge, massive damage input increases right there, so we definitely want to grab that. And then if you do scroll down, obviously it's just the same kind of standard stuff. We want to grab extra health, we want to grab extra weapon damage, we also want to grab things like stun damage, everything like that. You just kind of want to work your way through this and just keep going, grabbing everything that's going to help you with weak point damage, or just damage across the board, sustain, and SMGs, and everything else like that. You'll be absolutely fine. Lastly, we can head over to the companion tree, and you can see how we currently have this, and because I like having them as durable as possible, health is going to be the way. Damage is also a massive kind of factor, especially with Crusher, because Crusher can do a lot of sustained damage as well. We also have Hefty Fine to increase the amount of stun chance, that just helps us out with the build. Same with Hefty Fine 2, that's also going to increase it even further, and once you start putting mods onto them through the use of the exchange, they're just going to be very, very effective at being able to apply that stun left, right, and center. But yes, everything else you're just going to be grabbing things like health and just critical damage and everything like that. So that's pretty much the main things you want to focus on. You don't have to go the exact same route I've done. I've just tried to go general across the whole board so I can do all these kind of build videos for you. But if you want to focus on something specific, then that's the route I would take. And there you go, that's pretty much it on the build video there. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and hopefully you've learned something useful with ourselves. Let me know something down in the comment section down below. How do you feel about the vicious cycle? Do you think it has a bad rap and it just could do with something a little bit better in the community? And maybe it's just not as bad as people make it out to be. Feel free to make your case, whether it's good or whether it's bad, down in the comment section down below. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. Massive thank you to the Babylonian family, as always, for their continued support. It really does help the channel out. And if you did enjoy, make sure to drop that like and subscribe so you can find us for more videos like these. With all that said and done, that just leaves me to say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on our next video.